So with this, we will proceed with our today's lecture without wasting a single moment. So very good morning to all my dear students, and I welcome you all into the industrial pharmacy. So what the industrial pharmacy is, so this is what is just the overall processes that are happening in case of an industry. And as our subject is industrial pharmacy, so we should know these things, right? So let's move to the details of our pre-formulation. We had already begun the pre-formulation, and in the very first lecture of pre-formulation, we had covered the API, that is the active pharmaceutical ingredient. Then we saw what are the different timing where we have to go for the process of the pre-formulation. Later, we had given focus onto the process of pre-formulation, the definition for the pre-formulation, and we saw the challenges in case of pre-formulation, along with the physicochemical and the BCS properties that are necessary to be considered and to be studied during the pre-formulation studies. In our very second lecture, we had gone through the planning of the pre-formulation, the different consequences of poor pre-formulation, which will lead to the disasters, the physical properties. We saw the amorphous form, crystalline form, the uses of the amorphous form, challenges in case of use of amorphous form. Some of the examples of the amorphous form of the drug that was approved by the US FDA. Then we saw the crystal form, crystal habit, the polymorphism, that is the single entity. Again, today in our second lecture, in continuation of this lecture, we will going to study in sufficient details as far as the polymorphism is concerned. That is the existence of the same substance into the two or three different forms. That is said to be the polymorphism. Then we saw the significance of presence of the co-crystals and the importance of the crystallinity. As the FDA, it will tell us that there should be a presence of some kind of combination of the different structures. How the crystals they will affect the solubility, and what are the characterization methods that are used for the crystal forms, that will be the part of our today's discussion in this particular lecture. So as I said that it is mandatory to establish whether or not the API that is being studied exists in more than one crystalline form or not. This is very, very important to study at the pre-formulation stage. As FDA clearly it will say that whenever we are studying about any new drug substance, we need to study that whether the same drug is existing into the polymorphic form or not. And if it is existing, then what are the different properties in relation with that of the melting point, stability, solubility, and other properties. Because although the substance is same, but the forms are different, and as the forms are different, their properties they will differ, and as the properties they will differ, they will ultimately affect the formulation and development of a particular kind of dosage form. So if yes, that means if the API that is going to be existing into the two or more forms or into the polymorphic form, what are the properties of all different crystal forms like melting points, solubility, stability, safety, and the efficacy? So these needed to be studied. How the crystals will affect the solubility. When a crystal molecule is to be dissolved, firstly, it is to come out from the crystal lattice. So this is what is the reason that why particularly the crystal form that is responsible for maintaining the duration of action. Because it has to come out, it has to come out from the crystal lattice. Whereas comparatively, if we see the amorphous form, The amorphous solute molecules, these are free to move. So they will quickly goes into the solution and they will easily dissolve. So that is the basic difference between the crystalline and the amorphous form. The enthalpy concentration, that is the energy concentration and the free nature of the substances, that will delay the entry of the drug molecule from crystalline lattice to the solvent, because as it has to come out from the crystal lattice. So that's why the entry of the drug molecule from the crystalline lattice to the solvent, that will get delayed, and that is beneficial when we are designing any kind of formulation. In order to get the quick onset of action, we should have the amorphous form. In order to get the longer duration of action or sustained action, we need to have the crystalline form. So as far as the characterization is concerned, that is determining the different parameters and the properties, we have to go through the different analytical methods, like say the melting point, then the thermal analysis, then the X-ray diffraction, the infrared, and the scanning electron microscopy. Some of the methods which are said to be the miscellaneous, that is the synchrotron radiation, solid state Raman spectroscopy, and the solid state NMR. NMR, that will stands for the nuclear magnetic resonance. As far as the melting point is concerned, it can be done by the conventional way, which is said to be the capillary method or the capillary melting point method. So what we used to do, we used to load the capillary with that of the powder substance, and then these capillaries are to be held into the mineral oil. Mineral oil is heated, and as the heat temperature that will rise up, when it is reaching to that of the temperature at which the powder substance that will get melted, that particular temperature will be noted. So as we used to do conventionally in case of the laboratory. So that is the capillary melting point method. As far as the hot stage microscopy is concerned, you can see this is the particular depiction of the hot stage microscopy. Here the sample that is to be taken, and the sample is to be heated, and there is an entry of the gas from one side and there is an exit of the gas from the another side. That is the liquid nitrogen gas that is to be inserted, that is to be injected, and that is to be taken out. So this is the particular method which is said to be the hot stage microscopy, and the microscope that is used in order to detect the melting point. Then there is a method which is said to be the thermal analysis, that is the substance or the product that is subjected to the heating, and this is the most versatile and the precise method. Now, how the thermal analysis that is to be carried out? That is to be carried out by the DSC. So how the DSC that will work, that we will see through the particular clip associated with the thermal analysis.
In the standard thermal analysis technique, it is done either by DSC or the DTA. DSC stands for differential scanning calorimetry, while the DTA
The DSC that will stands for differential scanning calorimetry, and the DTA that will stands for the differential thermal analysis.
In the standard thermal analysis technique, it is done either by DSC or the DTA. DSC stands for differential scanning calorimetry, while the DTA stands for differential thermal analysis. In DTA, the difference of the temperature is measured as a function of temperature or time, while in the DSC, all things are same like DTA, except additional measurement of enthalpy or energy required to keep the sample at same temperature as that of reference.
See, this is the particular stage which will consist of preparation of the samples, the preparation of the sample for the process of the DSC. So this is white, which is said to be the crucible. Into this crucible, the samples are to be taken, the required amount that is to be weighed. Then it is subjected to that of the DSC or the DTA.
This is the most suited characterization method for preformation because it requires only 2 to 5 milligram of sample. In the very first step, the sample is prepared.
The amount of sample which is required in case of the DSC, that is very, very small, 2 to 5 milligram only. This is the particular instrument which is said to be the differential scanning colorimetry.
And for that, the sample is taken in the crucible or the sample holder. They are made of ceramics in general. Now, the robotic arm will do the rest of the work.
See, what we need to do is we just have to load this, weigh the sample, and we have to load it into the crucible. Crucible has to be placed into the sample holder, and further we need not to do anything. Everything that will be done by the instrument itself. It will consist of the robotic arm, and this robotic arm that is responsible for lifting up of this crucible. Crucible, that is what is said to be the holder.
It picks up the sample holder and places it in the furnace.
Here you can see that there are two different crucibles. This is the sample one and the earlier one, which is said to be the reference one. Here this is the burner. Now this is going to be loaded into this furnace, and there it will going to be heated.
In the furnace, another reference sample holder is present. The comparison of heat flow between the sample and the reference is the observable parameter for DT.
The DTA instrument, differential thermal analysis instrument, the robotic arms, sample holder, furnace, and this is the particular peak which we had obtained, and this peak is said to be the thermogram.
The sample and the reference both are heated at a constant rate. As there is loss of heat or gain of heat by the sample when it changes the phase upon heating, exothermic or endothermic signals are registered and recorded. The crystalline fusion, transition, evaporation and sublimation.
So the principle which is involved, that is the measurement of the either loss or gain of the heat. So that is the exothermic or the endothermic reaction.
Stages can easily be visualized through these thermograms. Thermal analysis gives a lot more information than the melting point. In this particular example, the first thermogram is the DSC of drug, which shows clear endothermic peak, which was found shifted in case of its complex. The bottom one shows this with other carrier. It's visible that the complex was showing the unique peaks unlike the drug and the carrier. Now, after
See, the process of heating is over, and this is the most important stage. Once the heating is over, we need not to touch this particular instrument because the crucible that is already heated one, and if we are going to be just lifting it with our bare hands, it may causes burning of the fingers. So let the robotic arm to do the whole things.
completion of the analysis, the sample is being removed by the robotic arm slowly and swiftly. Please be cautious while removing the sample holder and never use bare hands to touch the crucible just after analysis. During the analysis, it gets very high temperature and it might burn your skin.
So that is about the thermal analysis. The next method of characterization, that is the X-ray powder diffraction analysis method or the analysis technique. So this is particularly the non-destructive method, but the disadvantage associated with this method is that it requires the large samples, the large amount of the samples, and the peaks obtained at various scattering angles. The peaks are related to the d-spacing, and the crystals, they can be identified with the help of the X-ray powder diffraction technique. So this is the pictorial representation, particularly the X-rays. These are going to be bombarded onto the sample, and the sample that will lead to the diffraction, and the angle will going to be measured into this. Particularly the X-rays, these are the arrays which are having the frequency between the UV and the gamma rays. So how the X-ray diffraction that will works? So it is based on, or it is going to be calculated on the Bragg's law, n lambda equal to 2d sine theta, where lambda is the wavelength of perfectly and monochromatic X-ray beam. The theta is the angle of incident beam on the crystalline sample. N is the order of reflection, an integer which is usually 1, and d is the distance between the planes in a crystal. So how particularly the X-ray powder diffraction analysis that is to be carried out? We will just have a look over onto this clip.
Sample preparation is again a very crucial step in case of X-ray powder diffraction analysis. The sample should be properly dried.
In XRD2, it will require the sample preparation, and these are the particular sample holders. They have to be very clearly and cleaned, and into these particular wells, the powder sample that is to be loaded. We require the large amount of samples in case of the XRD. The same may not be the case in case of
the first step of sample preparation is to clean the sampling wells properly. Then the sample is placed in the sample holder. The sample should fill the sample well properly, which can be achieved by using small pressure over the sample holder. Now the prepared samples are placed on the sampling area of the instrument, and rest of the work is automated. Using the software-based controlling, we can vary the parameter of the analysis as per our need and then start the process. X-ray
So that is the X-ray diffraction method, and next method of analysis or characterization is the infrared spectroscopy. This method that is useful in order to identify the polymorphism characteristics. It provides the qualitative information. The different arrangement of the atoms leads to the different molecular environment, and the different molecular environment that are responsible for the different sketching frequencies. So they use to distinguish a polymorphic form, particularly in terms of the functional groups, changes, and the interactions that may be detected in case of IR spectroscopy. The official book that will contain the data or the spectra for different kinds of the APIs, as far as the DAC is concerned, as far as the XRD is concerned, and as far as the IR patterns are concerned for the standard drugs. Now it will also aid to XRD in confirming the purity of molecules. How the scanning electron microscopy that will function, because this is the most advanced method and it is carried out in order to determine the particle size and the surface area. So what it involves, we will have a look quickly over onto this clip.
In scanning electron microscopy, the first step in SEM is sampling preparation. The sample should be clean and free from moisture, as the SEM instrument uses vacuum in the process.
What the SEM instrument will use? It will use the vacuum.
And presence of any moisture or dust can compromise the results as well as the analytical process. The sample preparation is done by coating the sample using gold.
How the samples are coated? The samples are coated in case of SEM using the gold. So that's why the method is very expensive.
The sample is stick to sampling disc, and the disc is then placed in the sample preparation instrument. Vacuum is applied and flushing of instrument is done several times using argon gas. The sputtering is
Which gas is involved in ACM? The argon gas.
Is applied for required time while the vacuum of the sample preparation chamber is kept constant approximately 10 to the power minus 1 millibar. After sputtering stops, the sample disc is removed from the sample preparation chamber and placed in the SEM instrument. Now the electron gun emits the electrons upon the sample and its multifold enlarged picture is freezed. And then by using the software based controls, the parameters are set to the desired limits and imaging is started.
So this is the way by which the ACM that will works, and here particularly the details associated with the pre-formulation as far as the physical properties are concerned, crystal properties are concerned, that is over. So just to take away message in this particular lecture is that we need to concentrate during the process of pre-formulation onto the SES, just for understanding I am telling you. We can remember it as SES. S for stable, E for effectiveness, and S for the safety. So these three properties has to be ensured in case of the pre-formulation. So in this particularly lecture, what we saw the API, the timing of pre-formulation, focus of pre-formulation, pre-formulation definition, challenges in pre-formulation, pre-formulation properties, planning for pre-formulation, consequences of poor formulation, physical properties, amorphous form, uses of amorphous form, challenges, approved amorphous drugs, crystal forms, crystal habit, the polymorphism, co-crystals, importance of crystallinity, how the crystals they will affect the solubility, and last but not the least the characterization. What are the different methods of characterization? The characterization that can be done by various methods like say the thermal analysis DST, then we can go for the X-ray powder diffraction, then we can go for the scanning electron microscopy, then we can go for the infrared spectroscopy. So these methods are useful in order to characterize the substance that is into the crystal form. Now let's move to the next lecture associated with the pre-formulation, and in this particularly we have to study in detail the concept of polymorphism, the importance of polymorphism in pre-formulation, the concept of the pseudo-polymorphism which consists of the hydrates and the solvates, the importance of the pseudo-polymorphism in pre-formulation, the effect of particle size and shape on the pre-formulation, characterization of the particle size and the shape. The lesson plan will be pre-formulation, pseudo-polymorphism, importance of polymorphism, particle size, then characterization. The contents will be polymorphism, importance of polymorphism, types of polymorphism. There are two different types of polymorphism, packing polymorphism and the conformational polymorphism. So what these two, how these two will be defined and what is the difference between these two, that we have to study. Then we have to see the classification of the polymorphism. So that is the enantiotropic and the monotropic. Then we have to see one example of the ritonavir, how the polymorphism that had affected and what is the significance of the polymorphism, that we will going to come to know through this particular example of the ritonavir. Then we have to see that the pseudo polymorphs, that is the presence of the solvents, how they will lead to the formation of the solvents, and the presence of the water, how it will lead to the formation of the hydrates. When there is a presence of the solvents, so based on their properties, they had been classified as class 1 polymorphs solvates, class 2 solvates, and the class 3 solvates, whereas the hydrates they had been classified as the hydrate polymorphs. Then what is the basis for the selection of the polymorphism? How we will go for characterizing the polymorphism? the polymorphism profiling, which will consist of the particle size, particle shape, and some of the basic rules associated with the polymorphism. Then we have to study the particle size distribution, microscopy, the different sieving method, which is called as the quantitative method, the Coulter counter method, and the laser scattering methods. So all these we have to study in respect of the polymorphism is concerned. So again, just to recall the things associated with the polymorphism, we had already defined it in our previous lecture. So what is the polymorphism? How we had defined? That is the same substance that is existing into the different forms. So if you want to define it, we can define it as the ability of a substance to exist as two or more crystalline phases that have different arrangement and or conformation of the molecules in a crystalline lattice is called polymorphism. So this is the definition that you need to write, and the different forms, these are because of what? These are because of the arrangement of the molecules and or. So that is the polymorphism. So you can see the existence of the three different forms of the same substance. Like say these three birds, they are same, but they are differing as far as their color at their head is concerned. This is with the yellow color, this is with the red color, and this is with the black color. So that is what is the polymorphism and its difference and its definition. So what is necessary? The necessity is that effectiveness, stability, and the safety. SES, stability, effectivity, and the safety. Now, as far as the importance of polymorphism is concerned, we need to consider and we need to concentrate onto the different kinds of the properties, like say the thermodynamic and the physicochemical properties. These has to be carefully studied while studying the polymorphism, and this is because of the differences in case of energy, in case of melting point, in case of density, in case of stability, and in case of the solubility, so which ultimately responsible to improve their properties from that of the original form. So there is a quite interesting story as far as the polymorphism is concerned. So it was related with that of the Napoleon and its army. So particularly when the Napoleon started to rule onto the Moscow, and when he had reached to that of the Moscow, particularly the Napoleon and his army, they used to wear the uniform, and these uniform they used to have the buttons, metallic buttons, and these buttons, these are made up of the substance which is said to be the tin. So particularly what happened when they had reached to that of the Moscow onto the 14th September 1812, and onto the 18th September 1812, what they had observed that the color of their buttons that had been changed. Earlier the buttons that was purely white, then later it became the dirty gray in color. So this is because of the effect of temperature, that is the sub-zero temperature, and this causes the thinking of Napoleon and his army that there is a curse of the god particularly onto them. There is a wrath of the god, so which leads to their moral down, and particularly because of that they get defeated at the gate of the Moscow. So this is just because of the polymorphic form, and it is because of the effect of temperature onto the properties of a tin. So as you can see that it was polymorphism and not the wrath of the god. So particularly at a sub below temperature of 18 degrees centigrade, the tin that will existing into the two different form, that is said to be the beta tin and the alpha tin. The beta tin, that is metallic one, and that is very clearly white, whereas the alpha tin, that is non-metallic form and it is gray in color. So The betatin that is highly stable above the 18 degrees Celsius, whereas the alpha-tin that is unstable at below 18 degrees centigrade. So because of the reduction into the temperature, the color has been changed from that of the white to that of the dirty gray color. So it is existing into the tetra